We have a huge goal to accomplish. Our anchor goal once is that 100% of our students will graduate ready for college and career. This is the North Star for us in the work that we're doing around our high school students, and specifically what we're driving with our 9th grade work. So to highlight the research that you've heard today, 8th grade course grades, attendance, suspension, PSSA test data are all predictors of being on track at the end of 9th grade. Also, students who successfully complete the 9th grade the first time are more likely to graduate high school within 4 years. And lastly, the 9th grade year is the most critical and predicting indicator of a student's success in high school. So there's no dispute in 9th grade counts, it matters, and it is a difference maker as it pertains to high school student success. So a key point that was pulled out from the research that Molly conducted is this model that came out in a report, a 2011 report from the U.S. Department of Education. And what it did was provide a framework of how to support 9th grade students and increase the likelihood that these students will graduate from high school. This report specifically has been integral to the work that we've been doing in establishing the 9th grade academy in the School District of Philadelphia. And so what I will highlight later for you in the presentation is how the components of these supports, from getting ready from 9th grade to climbing the academics to the targeted supports and a district level responsibility in the work, all plays into our 9th grade academy model. So our baseline, the research that has been captured so far highlighted that we had schools that fell into these various 4 groups of on-track performance. So this was the foundation for the work that needed to happen with our 9th grade students. So this is not to say that prior to 2015, 2016, that the district did not care about 9th grade students. What this says is this data that we began to focus on in 2015, 2016 became the point of intention and of critical intervention for the district. And what it propelled us to do was establish some goals. And so in looking at all of the indicators and what the research said about 9th grade students, we realized that it wasn't just enough to say on track data, but that there were also other indicators that was informing student outcomes within those schools. And so what we have here is what we refer to in the district as our 9th grade Anchor Goal 1 ABCs. And that refers to attendance, behavior, and credit attainment. So as a district, we established goals around these key areas because these were the consistent predictors from looking at 8th grade performance to 9th grade performance and even high school students all throughout 10th and 12th grade that had an implication to whether or not students successfully completed high school. So we do know that attendance is critical to ensuring that students are making progress, because if you're not in school, you're not learning, and if you're not learning, you're not producing. And so we focus on how do we help schools get to the point of ensuring that students are coming to school, how do we focus on behavior, and how do we focus on the progress that students are making towards attaining credits. So from the 2015-2016 data, we had to identify a few priorities. So if you look at the bottom where it says all traditional high schools, we noticed that by the time we got to the end of Q4, we were looking at 62.9% of our students who had closed out the year on track. But if we just looked at the comprehensive high schools by themselves, we were looking at 44.7% of our students. So our comprehensive neighborhood high schools, the ones that you see highlighted here to the right, became a point of intentional focus and intervention for us. Looking at the St. Bands is hard to see on here, but we started seeing the same trends as it pertained to our 95% attendance and our 0 out of school suspensions. So even in that case, we noticed that there was a huge difference, in some cases a 20% difference and between the students in our comprehensive high schools and the students, if we look at all of our high school students as a whole. So it may be hard to see on there, but to the left where it says 95% attendance, we were looking at 34.5% of traditional schools versus 18.9% with our comprehensive schools. So again, huge differences between what was happening. And in our zero out of school suspensions, we were looking at 88% for all traditional schools, but in looking at comprehensive schools alone, we were looking at 71%. So again, this became a point of focus around our neighborhood comprehensive school. But as a district, we recognize that whether you were in a comprehensive neighborhood school or any of our other schools, that we had to have a strategy around how we approach the 9th grade. And so these areas, this is a high level look at what became a focus for us. The professional development became critical, what we were doing with our principals, what we were doing with our teachers, to really hone in on attendance, behavior, and credit attainment. We also have a focus on benchmark analytics. This is monitoring the progress along the way, looking at what's happening at quarterly intervals, and establishing action plans to respond to the data that we're actually seeing. We had to get very intentional about our instructional focus and our academic planning. So from looking at how students are scheduled in their classes appropriately to looking at the teachers that were working with our 9th grade students, also looking at our systems for how we manage academic planning. Also, we looked at targeted interventions. When we see students who are falling off track or starting to slip in their academic progress, what are we doing about it? And so we had to come up with a way to specifically look at the supports for 9th grade students, which I will highlight for you. Purposeful partnerships and strategic supports. This is critical because our keynote speaker, he highlighted a whole lot of research that he came across that a lot of people were doing but wasn't proven to be effective. So as a district, we had to get away from the a la carte supports and, oh, I want to work with your school supports and, oh, pick me, you know, without being very intentional about how is the work that you're doing moving the needle on the outcomes that we want to see with our students. So we had to become very purposeful in our partnerships and very strategic with the supports. And lastly, we had to be very clear on communication. Parents needed to understand what the expectations are in the school. Parents are equal partners in this work. So we can't do this work alone, and schools can't do this work alone. So it's important that there's ongoing communication with our parents and ongoing communication with you as our community and public, because if you want to support the school, you have to understand what we're working towards. So from all of those pieces, we established our 9th grade academy model. This model is specifically for our comprehensive neighborhood high schools. So these are the schools that we identified were our highest priority needs. And we focused on the academy structure, dedicated space for our 9th grade students. So within those schools, we tried to establish their own world. And you all have been 9th graders before. You know what it's like to be a 9th grader. Nobody likes you. Nobody wants to be around you. They think you're special, and you are. To me, you are the most important people in the building. And so we want to make sure that they have their own little world, their own little bubble to grow and develop and to explore and to acclimate to high school amongst their peers. Our academy leadership, all of our 9th grade academies have a dedicated assistant principal who oversees the work of the 9th grade academy. Our staffing, what we've tried to work with our schools to make sure that the core teachers that work in the 9th grade academy are true to supporting 9th grade students. So we tried to get away from this teacher has like 4 12th grade classes and 1 9th grade classes, but that the majority of the teacher's schedule is around 9th grade students so that we're building this strong community around our students. We focus on academy scheduling. A lot of the research that you heard prior to me coming to the platform was about students being in the correct classes, so that became integral to what happened. Our common planning time for our teachers to get together and focus on their lesson plans and building capacity with each other. Freshman seminar and freshman orientation also became critical to acclimating students to the school. So this is our lovely 9th grade student, and what we've highlighted here are the key supports that we believe are important to making sure that that student can grow in a healthy school environment. So that includes making sure that every student has a caring adult that they can go to. It also includes making sure that we have college and career advising support so that upon entering high school, our students are already thinking about what happens when they leave high school. We also included professional development for our staff and making sure that our students have an opportunity to redeem themselves when they start to struggle. So we don't wait to the end of the 9th grade year to decide to intervene when we see our students struggling. So we focus on supports that students can receive throughout the course, throughout the year. Our academic focus is really around supporting teachers on how to teach in a 90-minute block. Many of our schools have gone from 45-minute classes to 90-minute classes, so we focus on professional development there. Algebra 1 and literacy are also key focus areas for us, starting with 8th grade. So we're focused on building Algebra 1 in the 8th grade and also building up Algebra 1 and literacy through 9th grade. Naviance is our college and career readiness platform that allows our students to get exposure to what are their strengths, what are they really good at doing, and what colleges and careers lend themselves best to who they feel that they are as a person. And our instructional leadership. Our academy leaders have ongoing professional development that builds their capacity as instructional leaders, and our principals have ongoing professional development to build their capacity as well. Here are some just a high-level look at what the supports look like. We have higher ed partners that work with our schools. Some of our schools are what we call college and career pilot academies. So they have a dedicated college and career coordinator who works with our students in that level of advisement. Our district partner, we have one district partner that comes out of our office that supports our 9th grade academy students, and that's Philadelphia Outward Bound. And it's very strategic in focusing on character, leadership, connectedness, and teamwork for our students. So like I have kids out now on an expedition in the middle of who knows where they are. I know they have backpacks, they are with people who love and care about them, and that they are safe according to the pictures that I'm receiving. But we have about 1,000 kids that have participated with Philadelphia Outward Bound. We also have corporate sponsors, and through our Gear Up program, which supports several of our schools, these corporate sponsors and partners are integral to our tutoring services, to taking our students on college trips, to volunteering. So they do a number of things that impact our 9th grade students. And restorative practices have been key to reducing our out-of-school suspensions. So because we're looking at alternative ways to reach our students besides sending them home every time they get on our nerves. And I was a high school principal before, and I remember wanting to just send you home because you get on my nerves, and that's not the way to do it. So we're looking at other ways to reach our students when they are struggling in the classrooms. So what has all of that work led to? So you've heard at the very top that our definition in the district is to be on track. A first-time 9th grader must earn 1 credit in each of the 4 core areas and 1 additional credit. That 94% is going to be a baseline number for us. This year is the first time that we have a system that actually looks closely at our student information system, very closely at our kids' schedule at the beginning of the year in one of the 4 classes that leads to a graduation requirement. So for the first time, we're able to see that 94% of our students were appropriately scheduled in their 4 core classes. And so this should lend itself to great outcomes for us should our students continue to be on target. So our outcome goals over to the left, at least 75% of 9th grade students will be on track to earn a minimum of 5 quality credits. We're at 64.2% of our students being on target to meet that, meaning they're on target for grade level promotion, and that is up 5.1% from last year. And if we're looking at our first time 9th graders, we're at 68.7%. Now, this middle column reflects all of our ninth grade students. This is all ninth grade students in the district. But if we look at our ninth grade academy students, we're at 45.8%. That's up 1.4% from last year, but it's up, for us, it's up 6.9% from the year before we started the ninth grade academy. And in our other areas that we're monitoring with behavior, we're at 51%, which is up 15% from last year for our students that are attending 95% days or more. And the same thing is happening with our ninth grade academy. We're at 37%, but that's up 12.8% from last year. And in our last area, our 0 out of school suspensions, we're at 87.7% for all ninth graders, up 3.5% from last year. But in our ninth grade academy, we're at 80.9%, and that's up 4.8% from last year. So we're showing you this at the end so that you can see that our efforts have not been in vain towards our ninth grade students, and that we are seeing progress that's trending in the right direction. And so our hope is that we keep the momentum going and that we continuously improve and reinvent ourselves as the research and the data directs. So thank you for your time today. It's been a pleasure speaking.